Accepted.
Hello. Good morning. How do you feel today? Good, fine, good. My name is Tomek, and I'm from Grand Parade, William Hill. And today I would like to spend 49 minutes with you. By the way, clock doesn't work yet, so I'll set up my clock just in case. I will spend 45 minutes with you, 49, maybe 45 and some questions time, talking about creativity. And why it's so important to be creative. We all work in creative industry, I guess. But do you feel that you do creative things at work? Any one of you who feel that his or her work is creative? 1/4 of the of the audience. So why is that? Why we live and breathe in the creative world and the creative industry, and we don't do creative work sometimes at work? So I was thinking about that, and I checked what's the root of the creativity, and root of the meaning of the creativity is creo, and creo is to make grow. So let me ask another question. Do you feel that your ideas grow at work? Some of you, yes. So that's why it's so important, because we can own it. It is only us who can make our work creative or not creative. We can fight for it, we can allocate some time for being creative, and that's why I would like to talk to you about it today, to give you the guidance how to do it to make your work more creative. So why bother? Because if we are creative, we can feel fulfilled, we can achieve more. Did you feel anything like this, that you did a creative task or achieved a finished creative project and you feel proud? Who of you felt proud? At least one time at work. I'm happy that a lot of you feel proud. That's a good sign. So definitely that's important, because that can increase your self-esteem. If you achieve something and that's your idea produced by your brain and you are achieving that, then your self-esteem is growing. And if your self-esteem is growing, your health actually can improve. There are some scientists proofs that evidence that your health can be improved. And obviously, you can earn more money, right? We all are focused on that as well. Here are some data from WeTransfer company. They said that 90% of creative people believes that creativity should come from your client. On the other hand, there's 81% of clients who say that the creativity should come from the developers or the creative guys. So talking about earning more and developing your career, I guess there's a huge gap that you can fulfill here. So 19% of the clients, 81% of the clients can pay more to those 10% who are creative. How cool is that, right? So if we know that, and if we recognize that we need and we would like to have the creativity, let's focus for a moment about the invention process, how the ideas are being born in our brains. And I studied automation and robotics. Any of you on the audience studied automation and robotics? One, two, couple of people, yes. So you recognize this this slide. This is the feedback loop diagram. And we, on our studies, I guess, were taught to remember this feedback loop every second of our life. If they wake up us in the middle of the night, we need to remember that. So I remember that as well from my times of studies, and I think that it's something going on there, because on the left-hand side of the slide, you have the input of the signal. And when we think about creativity, the input is actually the world around us. So the problems that we need to solve, and that's why we are creative. Experiences we got solving that problems, or experiences of our colleagues, and existing ideas. Because creativity is as simple as it is. We see existing ideas, we would like to improve it and think something more, invent something more. And then we have pretty much the same CPU, I mean our brains, right? We have pretty much similar algorithms because our brain works in a similar way, not the same, but in a similar way from person to person. So this block with the calculation piece is the same for all of us. So why is that some of us have the great ideas and some of us don't have it at the same time? This is about this feedback loops or reflection. So we observe the reality, we know our experience, we have our CPU, and then we reflect what we've seen. And this reflection feedback loop is the key, is sometimes the secret sauce, they say, of the genius. So this is genius, our genius brain. This is chance, because you may know that some inventors, they just had a chance to invent something. Actually, last year we had a talk with my colleague about on Devoxx about inventions that they were coming up at the same time in a different part of the world. So chance definitely important in that feedback loop, and the moment in time, obviously, as well. So this is like a secret sauce. And this is something that it looks like we can't control. So what we can control, actually, it's the creativity growth conditions. So how to grow our creativity in order to, when we have those reflections, or let's put it that way, to have the possibility to have this reflection. Because sometimes we don't even allow ourselves for this reflection. We're just achieving more and more goals, not reflecting on each other. I would like to introduce this lady for you. I introduced it yesterday on my talk. Who of you was on my talk yesterday? Just out of curiosity. A couple of people, okay, so I will not repeat myself. But I would like to tell you about this lady. Brené Brown, she's a psychologist, she's a researcher, and she talks a lot about different things like vulnerability, for example, like courage, like trust, and many other human aspects. In our industry, we call it soft skills, but this is more human skills than soft skills. And she came up with this sentence. I will read it for you. There is no such thing as a creative and non-creative people. Only people who use their creativity and who don't. So how to use it and how to unlock it? She says that the key to unlock our creativity is to be vulnerable, to be vulnerable in front of each other. But what's that? What's vulnerability? Any of you works with the vulnerability, by the way, in IT? I see some nodding parts, yeah. So this is the definition, or this is the meaning in our IT industry, what the vulnerability is. And it is a flaw or weakness in the system that could be exploited to volatile this system, basically. So this is our meaning in IT. But Brené says something different, because she says something about vulnerability in us, in humans. And she, according to her, and not only to her, but according to the human aspect, willingness to show emotion and to show the weaknesses to be seen or known by others. And why it's so important? Yesterday I was talking more about pair programming, but very quick example with the pair programming, I can tell you that in the pair programming mode, we show, or we tend to show our weaknesses to colleagues sitting in front of, sitting next to us, right? And we may not show it, but the work not be so productive. But if we admit, hey, I don't know this thing, could you help me with that? Did I code it correctly? It helps improving the code for sure, but it also opens up for creativity. Because if only we are creative, if only we are able to allow ourselves to fail, basically. So she says, Brenna says, that the vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. And that's as simple as it is, right? If we are vulnerable, we may allow ourselves to fall. And if we don't allow ourselves to fall, we are afraid of mistakes and we don't invent creative things. So talking about agile, because we are on a IT conference, maybe not agile, but agile as well is incorporated in our organizations. Is agile vulnerable? We have here the manifesto, left-hand side of the manifesto, obviously, and this is all about connections, right? Interactions with each other, collaboration with the client, responding to change, be brave enough to say, huh, you know what, I will not develop this feature because market changed, right? I know that, my dear product owner, I know that you would like to have it, but marketplace changed. So this is the courage as well to responding to this change. And finally, we would like to produce the working software. So on principles, Agile also admits that we need to be self-reflected, we need to be courage, and we need to have the creativity. But that's Agile trigger creativity. This is our Agile setup or Agile conditions that we work with. So market dynamics, unknown requirements, because usually we have some challenges like this that product or the business guys come to us saying, oh, you know, I would like to develop the feature, but actually you need to figure it out how it will work. Any of you have heard about such a question? Yeah, I've heard a lot about that the business guys ask developers to figure out something. Hey, come up with something. We just need to earn more money, figure out something, right? So this is definitely our conditions. Market dynamics, because every day new companies are popping up and closing down. We solve complex problems because we are engineers, so we are hired to be here to solve complex problems. And this is a question about the costs. It's always someone who will come to us and say, hey, what's your estimation on that? In the meaning, like, what's the money that I need to pay to this team or this company to have the product? So this is our agile world. But is there any place for be creative? I don't see the place. I see that agile is about continuous improvements, right? But in the rush of all these ceremonies, stand-ups, retrospectives, planning, and so on, I don't see any kind of time allocated to thinking, to be creative. So I looked on the software craftsmanship part, and I said, okay, maybe not agile, but maybe in the technical ways we can find creativity. And I look on the tool chain of DevOps, for example, and I said, that's all cool, and we all need it, and we like implementing those tools and using those tools. But it's again something that our brain is processing outside of thinking of new ideas. If we implement or if we follow the process of those tools, the tools are providing us this way of thinking, not our brain. The worst case scenario is in silos. When you have silos, I guess that this is difficult to even communicate between each other. So that's why also in creativity, important is trust, because trust can help us in removing silos. If we ideally remove all the silos and all the connections, we could have one team working according to one big team working according to one goal and try to be creative. But still, even in those ideal conditions, there's aspect of time. Because pair programming and code review are good techniques, very nice techniques to improve our quality of software, improve our software as such. And this is very productive, right? But I'm missing, again, this creativity part, because productive work plus creativity or plus creative work can be effective work that earn more money. So I see the huge need. And right now I would like to tell you how to achieve this creativity. There are some creativity triggers that I found at work. They are working for myself. Basically, they said previously we had two parts of the brain. Right now we know that there is no like left part and a right part. It's all mixed. But in general, there are two ways of working of our brain that we can have. One is creative and the other is analytical. And people tend to think that someone is creative and someone is more analytical. Obviously, we have the tendency to be more analytical or more creative, but we can have both. And I will prove you that today, that we can have both. Because analytical part of our brain analyzes differences when we, for example, merge the code or checking the code on pair programming. We analyze differences, what was there before, what's inside right now. Our analytical part of the brain processes time. For example, during the meeting, when the meeting is boring and you say, oh, it's half an hour still. So this is our analytical part of our brain, and we think logically thanks to this part. And how about this creative part of our brain? Creative part of our brain see the similarities. And this is so crucial because we can be creative and can be inspired by others and by other aspects of world when we see similarities. We can get inspiration from outside the world. We process, in this mode, we process space. So we don't process time, but we process space, where we are. For example, today, how big is this room? And we connect the dots. So inspiration. And when we see something working there, we think, okay, maybe it will work here in my company. And to prove that, I have this picture for you. Look on this picture for a moment. And now check what your brain is saying to you, what your brain is thinking about this picture. My brain, when I look on this picture, first things, oh, will it fit? Well, those objects will fit to this material, to this wood. Is it the wood or is it the plastic, right? So the thoughts that I have in my mind is more analytical. I need to analyze if rectangle is rectangle, if it's fit or not fit. My imagination can even move this block inside and check. Do you have the similar expression? Yeah. Right. And look at this picture right now. And again, look on your brain, what your brain thinks about this picture. My brain thinks about space. Where I am, where it is. Is it the North Pole? Is it a day or night? So my brain thinks about time as well. Is it day or night? There is a sun. Is it shining or not? Is it sunrise or sunset? Is it cold over there? Probably it's cold. Are there any people around? Are there any houses around? And so on and so forth, right? So this is the situation of our brain that we think creatively. So instead of this picture in the project, in our daily work, we have a lot of situations like this picture. Hey, we need to develop that. How? Okay. Did I test it? Should I deliver it? When? Who is paying for that? All those questions. But we need to provide ourselves a space and the room for this type of thinking. And this is about space and time. Time in the meaning that creativity is not just like this, born at your work in your brain. You need to allocate the time and appreciate your time. The thing, though, is that, for example, when I think about my content and my talks, I'm so frustrated that I open up my notes, I start thinking, and after 10 minutes, I say, I don't have any idea right now. What's going on, That's crazy. And my brain keeps talking to me, hey, it's 10 minutes past, 20 minutes past, you need to have some idea, you're wasting your time. And that's totally okay and totally neutral. So you need to appreciate at the beginning of the creativity time that you will, I don't want to say lose, but you will invest is a good word. You would invest your 30 minutes or 45 minutes before creating ideas to reset yourself. I remember the times when I was on studies and I was learning to exams. That is the moment when you go to the fridge checking the food. Is it there? Do I need that? Do I want to take something from the food, from the fridge? Did you experience that? That was just my experience. Yeah, I see some noddings. So this is about the time. You need to invest the time at the beginning. So creative sessions, if you plan creative sessions or creative time, can't be just 1 hour session to come up with the ideas, because obviously I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago about that, and obviously it was like, okay, now 45 minutes and let's think about ideas. And we produced ideas in the team, and we produced a lot of ideas and a lot of great ideas, so outcome was good. But if we would invest 30 minutes, for example, at the beginning to reshuffle and to embrace this time in our brain, we could have more productive ideas. When it comes to the space is very important as well, because we are inspired by space. And my experience is that when I'm sitting in a very small room without any window, in front of my laptop and trying to figure out the idea or the topic for the talk, for example, that's difficult. But on the other hand, I go for a walk, for example. Or I go to the bigger conference rooms, or the conference rooms with the beautiful windows outside where the sun is shining. Automatically, new ideas are coming up in my head. So we are here in this cycle, and around us is the world. And we need to pay attention, if we would like to be creative, we need to pay attention that creativity is born in an outer world, I would say. So not just sitting in front of your laptop watching your screen, but maybe watching outside of the window, looking on other people, looking on the street. It all can inspire you. It sounds silly, but it does work. I can prove you that it does work. Movement is also something that activates your brain. When you sit down and just trying to figure it out, it's difficult. But if you just have a walk, inside or outside of the building, your brain is activating, or the other way around, your muscles are activating the brain in a different way, so it can think differently. It doesn't mean better or worse, it means differently. And the creativity we need different things. Do you remember manual writing? Any one of you who write manually? Ah, still a couple of people, yeah, so it is not lost, yes. It helps me a lot. When I think about my ideas and I try to use PowerPoint and just type on the keyboard, it's much harder than if I just close laptop, throw it away, grab a pencil, grab a paper, big size of paper, and just try to write there. It doesn't need to be, you know, like the thesis, master thesis, but if you even visually write or draw something, again, your brain is activated in a different way. And after this, you can come back to the laptop and note your ideas or prepare the slide. But it's important to switch from one way to another. Music is also something that helps us. And different kind of music help in a different kind of activities. When it comes to rock music, for example, or very high pace music, do you listen while you are coding? That? Yes, I have some nodding. Because your brain can just focus on the task, you probably know what's going on in your code, so that's why you are not disturbed in this high-speed music. But on the other hand, if you would like to think creatively and come up with a new idea, probably this high-pitched music will disturb you because you will be just listening, you know, to music. As long as it's not dancing. If dancing, there's a different story because movement of dancing can also open up you. But for creative moments, for example, I use jazz, and jazz just also can be fast-paced, but jazz provides me the space. The music is around me, but my brain focuses on something creative, not just listen to the music. Dialogue is also important, to speak with someone, to exchange your thoughts. But on the other hand, time on our own is crucial as well. So again, mix of things that can help us. And we need to be open for experiments. So that's why we need to this attitude of be vulnerable, be brave, because we will experiment. We will fail, but we'll get in there. We can observe the nature. And I know that how does it sound? For me as an engineer, it's like, what, observe the nature? But actually, it works, and those guys proved it. Do you know who they are? Yes. It was a long time ago, but on the other hand, not so long time ago, actually, when they did their first flight. So they observed the nature, and they had a dream to fly. And they did it, and right now we are flying, right? But this is not about the history. This is about nowadays, and actually, I think that was a couple of years ago. This eagle, when you see the wings, right, there are the end part of the wings which are going up, and this eagle can steer it up or down or different directions. And actually, a couple of years ago, there is a new invention in the flight industry called the winglets. The end of this wing of this Boeing. It is actually moving part of the wing that can adjust and steer, not steer the plane, but steer the behavior of the air around. And it works like this, that you have the plane here with the winglets at the end, and the vortex is weaker, so less fuel, I guess, better efficiency of the flight. And there is an old plane without the winglets, and the vortex is bigger, right? So I'm showing you that to tell you that observing the nature, observing a world around us is not just like a silly thing, but it actually works, and it still works after those almost 100 history of flying. They were able to come up with something new as well. So this is about connecting the dots. If you look around, if you observe your world, your brain will connect the dots and will be inspired in the sense that you will produce something creative. So once we know the creative conditions and creative practice, let's talk about creative process for now. This is important for me because I was working as agile coach, and usually the question to me was like, hey, can you get the team for like 45 minutes and get creative task out of it? And it happens, and it works, as I said, it works sometimes, but we need to appreciate and think about the whole process, not just generating ideas. Do you know brainstorm workshop or something like this? Yes. So brainstorm is actually just a part of the creative process. This is not brainstorm per se, this is not about creativity, this is about execution of your creativity. There are three phases that I would like to talk to you. Inspirational phase, incubation phase, and idea generation phase. And idea generation phase is actually this brainstorm part, which is crucial, which is important, and there will be no creativity without brainstorming type of activities. But still, this is just the end. Actually, to be honest, this is not the end, because there's at the end there's a fourth phase or fourth natural way, so implementation of the idea. So inspirational phase. How to do that, especially in pandemic setup, or post-pandemic setup, or remote setup, whatever we call it. Plan your creative time. That's crucial part. So again, if we book in the calendar 1 hour for coming up with the ideas, this is probably not the best way of using your time, because you need to have more time in order to prepare yourself, in order to listen to yourself, then be inspired and produce ideas. So you need to allocate more time, ideally, one creative day for such a project that you would like to run. Also, talking about time, you can split it. So you can split not allocating full 1 day, but let's say 2 hours on Monday, and then come back to work. And it's actually useful because during those 2 days, during the rest of the day, you will actually be thinking about your idea. And actually, that's something that I will tell you in the incubation phase. So you will get the idea, and then you will switch to another work, but the idea will be working in your brain, so you'll be able to be inspired as well. Also helps when you come back to home different road than usually, if you're walking, for example. Because you can observe the world. Again, this is as simple as this, observing the world. But why I tell you that? Because we don't usually do it, right? We are just going to work, coming to home, going to work, coming to home, and there's no space, no time, and no space for being inspired. Talking about the place or the space, choosing the inspiration space, sometimes it works. Sometimes I take my teams to a coffee shop nearby. Sometimes to the space that we can think creatively. I mean, the co-working space are designed that way, right? That you have a lot of different things, not just desks, but you can spend the time, spend a day or half day, and you are disturbed from your regular working day mode. So this is important to find. What to do with online? That's the question. If we are all online and all on the call and still needs to be creative. Online setup is difficult, right? Because we can be disturbed. Who of you, or I will not ask this question because that's, I guess, a private question, but we all know that if we are on the meeting with more than 2 people, or more than 1 person, but maybe, I believe, more than 2 people, we multitask, right? The email pop-up, and the Facebook notification that I need to check, which is okay because there is a work-life balance and we can, shift work. So if it's okay in our company, we will check it. Nobody will notice that. And yes, probably nobody will notice that, or sometimes you can feel it that the person doesn't follow the conversation. But never mind about the conversation, this is about creativity. There is not such thing like multitasking. And I will tell you later about that. What I did is like hop on and hop off time. So schedule the time online when you guys need to be there. Let's say 2 hours, for example, and then allow people to just hop on and hop off and say, okay, everyone, find an inspiration space. They can be in a coffee shop or wherever on the walk. There are 2 hours allocated that we will exchange ideas. So hop on, tell us about something or ask questions, and then you can log off and think about your ideas and come back. And obviously, if we have the bigger group, it works because people are just hopping off, hopping on, and they have the inspiration out of themselves, but also they can spend the time on their own thinking about the ideas. So this is not ideal, but this is the solution I got. Make manual notes. So I already talked to you about manual writing, and be inspired by past. So reflect what happened in the past in a similar project, for example, a couple of years ago, what I did, what I can learn from that. So not to forget our experiences and be open to the future. So if you think about the idea, focus also what will happen with this idea with 5 years from now. Appreciate silence. I was talking about the music, but I'm talking now about silence. In the silence, when you sit in the silence, first, the beginning of the time can be silly or not comfortable for you, but if you will sit longer, your brain again will switch and will generate some other ideas that you were thinking of before. The second phase that I would like to tell you about is incubation phase. So I mentioned before about this process of subconsciously processing the ideas. And we skip that usually in the companies because there is no time for incubation. You need to have the brainstorming on Monday and ideally implement on Tuesday and on Friday deploy to the client, right? In ideal situation. Obviously, it's not going to happen like this. But incubation phase is really, really important because of the inspiration, as I said. Because you can explore your solution, you can think from time to time about your idea. You can experiment if it's something tangible. You can experiment with this, just playing with it from time to time, and synthesize. You can synthesize what happened in your brain that you came up with the idea, and then think about it in a different moment in times. And finally, our brainstorming idea generation phase. So we come to the meeting, we brainstorm, and that's it. What I do, and what I encourage you to do, is to have the creativity warm-up. So not just tell people, okay, right now we start brainstorm and generate ideas, but to have some exercise that we could do together. For example, I use story cubes. Any one of you know the story cubes game? Yep. It's very different scenarios that we can use story cubes, but it helps because the people in the team, they are just realize, okay, so this is not yet another boring meeting with a brainstorming session with agile coach who is facilitating the meeting, right? But they say, oh, we can have a fun. And the fun is important because your brain, again, switched to the different mode, this creative mode, not the analyzed mode. We do need to have someone to facilitate the creative meeting. So basically someone who will pay attention to all of us on the meeting. Facilitation, who of you understand facilitation word? Just maybe, one brave guy over there. So facilitation is very fuzzy. So what does it mean to facilitate? Help? This is not managing, right? This is not working. This is not coding. So what does it mean? In the companies, people don't like this word facilitation. But actually facilitation, if I should say what it is, it's paying attention to all of the people in the room. So this is about if we have 10 people and one is very talkative and talks a lot. Do you experience such things on the meeting? Just one person dominates every single meeting. So facilitator role is to observe what's going on inside the team and see, okay, this guy is talking a lot. Maybe I'll ask the guy who is not talking anything. And this is not like managing, because this is not way of managing, but this is politely asking, okay, what do you think, Mark? I see that you may have some ideas, but you are quiet for a while. So this type of activities I call facilitation, and this is important because when we have people, they can have brilliant ideas, but those brilliant ideas, if they are not communicated to others, will be not implemented. So that's why facilitation is clue. Keep talking. So definitely talking and talking with others is clue. Don't multitask. Why? I can give you an exercise. What you can do right now is to take your whatever hand you have and do this thing on your back. Okay. And then take this hand and do this thing. And then try to do it. Oh no, sorry, I spoiled it. And do this thing. And try to do it. It's much harder, right? Or this is another exercise that will be good. If you count in your brain from 1 to 20, okay, and from if you count from A to F, and right now try to mix it. So one letter, one digit. That's also difficult, right? So multitask doesn't help. So if you focus on the being creative in the meeting, be present on the meeting. So we have those 3 phases, as I said, and at the end we need to have the implementation, obviously. And why it's so important to implement our ideas? Because sometimes we have the situation when we have ideas and store it under our desk, and this is forget, right? If we express ourselves, we can be more fulfilled. And the way they know it in the martial art, there is idea of shuhari. Any of you have heard about shuhari? I don't see a hand. Oh, I see one hand, yes. This is coming from martial arts. This is basically the steps that you can achieve during learning. For example, karate or something like this. Shu is about obeying the rules. So basically, you learn, you follow the rules, how to do it. And you need to trust others that the rules make sense. It's not only in martial arts, in our companies also can be that way. Then you have bend the rules. So you try to experiment here and there, and you need to have trust from others. So someone from the company needs to trust you that you will be right in bending those rules. And the third part is the be the rule. And that's the part when the fulfillment comes and where excitement comes, because we create the rule. We invent something. We are so experienced to create something. And this is part where we have trust to ourselves, and we can be creative. And then we can feel proud. We can have pride. We feel accomplishment, that we did something, we achieved the goal. And as I mentioned at the beginning, self-esteem is going up. So at the end of the day, this cycle is closed. And there are scientists who say that it improves our work because it reduces stress and we feel better. And at the end of the day, our immune system is improved. So all we need is to be creative. It's so simple, but it's so hard to implement. So I would like to leave it with two findings here today, that in order to unlock our creativity, we need all the activities that I mentioned, but most importantly, we need trust from others, for others, and for ourselves that we are creative guys. And we need to be vulnerable to say that, yes, we may fail. And I will leave you with this quotation from Brené Brown, coming from her, that creativity is the way I share my soul with others. So I wish you to share your soul with others using your creativity and be healthy. Thank you very much.